Welcome in, I'm Artress, and in this video, we're going to be going over Blue Purple Luffy, a brand new leader from OP11, which is inherently busted, probably one of the most broken cards to come out of the game in quite some time. I think a lot of people are already calling for a ban for this leader, although I'm not quite sure we need it quite yet. But regardless, this leader is very strong. If you're unfamiliar with what the leader does, he is a 3-life leader that says you may activate this effect at the start of your turn. If you have 8 or more Dawn cards on the field, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal it to one Straw Hat Crew type card and add it to your hand, then place the remaining cards at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. So what this reads to me is, once you hit 8 Dawn, draw 2 cards. So the longer the game goes on, the more that this deck becomes like a war of attrition. You have a lot of resources at your hand. You can stack your top 5 if you're looking for certain pieces. You can bottom those cards as well, and then hopefully draw into them later. So there's a lot of flexible ways to play this leader. But before we go over the deck list that I've put together, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that sub button. And if you find anything in this video useful or informative, or you just like the video in general, please make sure to give it a thumbs up. It helps out the channel so much. Thank you all for the support. Additionally, if you'd like to talk about the One Piece card game outside of the YouTube comments, make sure to join the Discord. The link for that is in the description below. So starting off, this leader is going to be perfect because you get the best of both blue and purple. There's a lot of strong blue cards, and of course there are some amazing purple cards that have come out over the course of the game. And if you can couple both of those together, that is a recipe for success. Starting off, we are running 2 of the 4-cost pudding. A lot of the times you're going to be facing mirrors. There are going to be plenty of times where you're facing the blue-purple Luffy matchup and you both have like 20 cards in hand, and the way that you can close a game out is that you have a wide board and then you play pudding to kind of go for that final lethal swing with all of the things on your board. So pudding is very important to be able to neutralize the advantage that your opponents will be getting over the course of a game, or even in the blue-purple Luffy matchup. Of course, with your leader being a 6k leader, you're going to be hitting pretty hard very early on, and so your opponent will likely take a lot of the hits, and you can also punish them for that as well. On to the whole reason why this deck works so well is the 9-cost Sanji from OP06. This is one of the few leaders that can actually use this character very efficiently. Of course, one of the other ones is being Marco, but this card says, on play, reveal the top 1 card of your deck. You may put into play up to 1 revealed character with a cost of 9 or less other than Sanji, then place the remaining cards on the bottom of your deck. So as you can see, this card is pretty much, I wouldn't say it's made for this leader, but it works so cohesively with what you're trying to do here. With the leader ability grabbing a Straw Hat Crew, you can grab this 9-cost Sanji off of the leader ability and then stack the next top 4 to have your draw, and then the card after that will be the card you can cheat out with this Sanji, and we have plenty of targets which we'll go over in a bit. Next up, we're running 4 of the new 5-cost Nami blocker. This is actually quite amazing as well. Everything in this deck has a lot of power on its own, and this card, of course, being a blocker, a 1k counter, 6,000 power. On play, if your leader is multicolored, draw 3 and place 2 from your hand at the top or bottom of your deck in any order. If you have lots of bricks, you can unclog your hand. If you are wanting to stack up the top of your deck so that your Sanji has some plays coming up, you can also use this card for that as well. So you have some flexibility in how you can play this card, but overall, the draw 3 and then just putting 2 back wherever you'd like is overall a super strong effect. So where my list differs, I think, from other people's is that this is more of like a blanket list that I would just take to a general tournament, not specialized for certain things, such as like going really wide, right? There's a lot of people that are putting in gravity blades. There's people that are putting in the 9-cost Mihawk, and I think all of those are very good options, but for me, I really like this 8-cost Luffy that came out of OP11 as well. He is a rush character that says when attacking, you may trash 1 card from your hand, return up to 1 character with a cost of 4 or less to the owner's hand, then give up to 1 rested Dawn to your leader or character. So you're getting a lot of efficiency here. But what's most important, that if you're going against leaders that go very wide, this can help answer that board by swinging this character into something and then also returning a character back to the owner's hand. You can also return your own characters if you want to as well. If you want to play a pudding and then return it to your hand so you can play it later, that's an option. So this Luffy has plenty of utility as far as how you can play the game. I really wanted to see this at more copies. I had it at 1. I didn't see it enough. I felt like it's really good into the Lucci matchup, especially since a lot of their characters are going to be 4-cost, and those are very important characters that you can't really interact with unless they already use the effect. so this Luffy is perfect for that. Next, I'm running 4 of the Bond Clay, and now one of the reasons this deck is kind of going to be probably hard to play to begin with because of the cost to actually play this deck. The Bond Clays alone are super expensive at a base rarity. They're like $80 a piece. The last I saw, they're probably gone down. They might have gone up. Who knows? Yeah, this deck is definitely not made for those without a lot of disposable income because of the fact that Bond Clays alone are super expensive. Sanjis have gone up over time, but this card is great because you can use this to ramp up. It can copy a character power, and then you can use this as a threat, and then later on it'll be something that your opponent wants to swing into. So it does it all. It's a 1k counter as well. So Mr. Bond Clay is amazing for this deck, but unfortunately you're going to have to run it, I believe. You could look for some alternatives that are cheaper, but this card is the best of the best for what it does. Next up, we're running 4 of the 3-cost Zoro Juro. It's when attacking if you have 3 or less life. Add up to 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So likely you're going to want to go first and then play this down on your 3 Dawn turn. This is very susceptible to removal, and I think a lot of decks are adding things in to kind of like slow down Blue-Purple's ramping. And one of those is being able to just like answer the Zoro Juro, whether it's bouncing it back to hand or like resting it and swinging into it, or just getting rid of it altogether. So this card is ideally really good to put down against decks that don't have a lot of interaction with the board so that you know that it's going to be able to stick and get the swing off, so you can at least ramp up that way. Otherwise, you have other tools to ramp up that have the on play or just an immediate ramp up. But the Zoro Juro is a very good card as well. Just to be able to have that 1k counter later in the game is super important when your opponent wants to swing and like poke at you for 6. Running 4 of the Blocker Sanji 2k counter. I don't really use this as a blocker very often. This is just mostly a searchable 2k. So that's why I have it in the deck at 4 of. I've seen people move their 2k ratios around a little bit and putting in like a 1-cost Nami 2k, and maybe putting things like the, I think it's like double finger into the deck at some points to just guarantee you can get some extra ramp if that's the case. Obviously, take your pick at what you'd like, but we're trying to have a certain amount of Straw Hats in the deck so we have targets for our leader ability. And I think the 2k targets are going to be the most important because those are things you're going to be looking for when you are trying to stay alive, especially if you go down to like 1 life pretty early. Grabbing as much counter over the course of a game is very important. Arguably, the best target for the 9-cost Sanji for this deck is the 9-cost Charlotte Linlin that came out of OP08. On play, Dawn -1, trash 1 card from your hand, add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life, then place up to 1 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less to the top or bottom of its owner's life face up. This will help you sustain yourself over the course of a game because you are healing and then removing a swing from the opponent's side, so that's very important. The downside to this card is that if you are using this card on your, I guess your 10 Dawn turn, you're going to be going down to 9 Dawn because of the fact that you're Dawn minusing 1. So your Gum Gum Giants are less, I wouldn't say efficient, but they're like less enticing because if you use the Gum Gum Giant on the same turn that you use a Linlin, you're going to be going down to 7 Dawn, and then therefore at the beginning of your turn, you're not at 8, so your leader ability won't proc. Keep that in mind. So that is something to take note of if you're going to be playing out a Sanji with a Linlin and you are desperate to need to play like a giant, go for it. Otherwise, we have other counter events to be able to keep within that 8 to 10 range of Dawn at the start of your turn. Another target for the Sanji is the 9-cost Luffy. This one is probably one that I'm not super excited to play, but I do think it's very useful in some matchups. It's great into the mirror. It's great into Lucci. If you do need a very strong rush unit, this is amazing to throw down. It draws you a card on play, but you do have to minus a Dawn. So with the same kind of sentiment that I gave with the Linlin, be very aware that you could go below 8 Dawn if you are playing Giant and you play this out in the same turn. So keep that in mind. Very good card though. Can close out games. Your opponent has to respect it because if they take certain hits, then they could be taking a 10k hit coming down as well. So this is a great card for like a surprise factor. Then on to what I think is probably one of the best cards, if not the best card to come out of OP11, the 8-cost Blocker Katakuri. This thing is just a monster. It restands itself at the end of your turn. It restands another Big Mom Pirates card with 3 or more as active at the end of your turn. So you have a few targets here. And then more importantly, it allows you to use your Gum Gum Giants on the same turn that you play things like your Linlins or your 9-cost Rush Luffys, because at the end of your turn, you can add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as rested. So if you play this out early enough and then you play a Sanji into a Big Mom later on and you go down to that 9 Dawn at the end of your turn, you ramp 1 back up to 10 so that you can safely use your Gum Gum Giants so that at the following turn you can get your leader ability off again. So this Katakuri is amazing. It swings for great numbers in this meta. It's very annoying for people to have to get past. The only real answer to this is either red rocking it or Cody Jones like resting it and bypassing it. So there's a few options to interact with it. Otherwise though, it's pretty much just sticking there and being a huge nuisance for your opponent. This card, when I said it can restand things, it can restand like this 9-cost Lin Lin after you swing with it. It can also restand a pudding if you swing with the pudding as well, because this falls under the Big Mom Pirates archetype. So keep that in mind. You can use that to like swing big with the pudding and then restand it and then not have to worry about losing an attack the next turn if that is something you are concerned with. But just a couple things to note there. But this card is amazing. Love to see it. I want to try to get this out as early as possible. And if you can get it off with the Sanji, that's also good as well. Although I will say the Sanji has better targets with like the 9-cost Big Mom, but this is a really good target as well. Running 4 Usohachi, best purple 2K counter in the game, being able to rest a 5-cost character. So that is why we have it here. And this card also is pretty expensive if I remember right, because you can only get it in the starter deck and they haven't reprinted it. And the only reprints they've had are the SP versions, which are ridiculously priced as well. So sorry about the price of this deck overall, but it is, I guess, the cost you have to pay in order to play what is considered the best deck in the format. Running 2 of the Gum Gum Red Rocks, this card is amazing for your Lucci matchup because a lot of them are running the 10-cost Kuzan, which is uninteractable otherwise. And if that thing sticks, it's pretty much game over for this deck. There are some other targets you can use. You can use this on Katakuris. Typically, I will use this on a Katakuri blocker because a Katakuri blocker against blue-purple Luffy is very annoying because of the fact that it will just get a free block in either on the leader swing or a block and then a 2K on like a bigger swing like the Lin Lin or maybe like a Katakuri as well. I do see a lot of people running this at 1 and I think that's fine. You can run a lot of 1-ofs in the deck because you are able to stack things, but I don't like the fact that if you run a 1-of and you see it and you might need something else in the moment, you are just basically sacrificing the fact you can't get that. So I like running 2-ofs here and there. As you can see, I have 2 here, 2 of the pudding, 2 of the 9-cost, 2 of the 8-cost. Because these cards, I like to see them in certain situations, but I don't want to have to feel like I'm sacrificing them if I need something else in the moment. I know that I can get them later in maybe a 2nd stack or a 3rd stack later on down the road. So that's why I have a lot of 2-ofs here. You could run this as a 1-of, but I like it as 2. Of course, we're running 4 Gum Gum Giant. I feel like I've said a lot of cards are broken in this deck, but this is like the card that is the most broken in the deck. Being able to give your leader plus 4K for only 1 Dawn, you're minusing 2, of course, but you have to pitch a card and then draw 2. So filtering out your hand, getting a little bit deeper into the deck, finding more answers, finding more counter. This card is just cracked at what it does. I'm running 2 God Threads. This is a 5-cost main event that says KO up to one of your opponent's 5-cost or below characters, then add up to 1 active Dawn from your Dawn deck. And then the trigger also allows you to ramp, so very nice there. But this is a good way to interact on 5 or 6 if your opponent puts down a card that is more threatening in the 4 to 5-cost range. And then I'm running 4 Gear 2, a new card from OP11. It's a 1-cost event that says main. You may rest 2 of your Dawn cards. If your leader is blue, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. Or you have a counter event here that says up to one of your leaders gains plus 3,000 power during this battle. Important to note that this is for leaders only. It doesn't protect characters. If someone wants to swing into a character, you can't use this to protect the character. But the flexibility here, being able to ramp early is very nice. And then also the effect that you can just like have it later for the counter power is pretty important. Like I said, if you don't have a Katakuri established, and you play a Sanji into a Lin Lin, you're minusing Dawn, so the Giants are less effective, or at least you're not going to be able to get your leader ability off the next turn. So Gear 2 is actually a pretty good counter event in those situations to at least give you that +3 when they swing into your leader, and then you don't have to worry about minusing any more Dawn. So as you can see, this leader has a lot of power behind it, a lot of counter power, a lot of just like swing power as well. You have a lot of 9-cost units that swing for 9, which is very hard for opponents to deal with over the course of a game. I'd say the weaknesses of this deck is that it doesn't do very well in the early to mid stages of the game. You don't have a lot going on. You're just trying to ramp up and get to 8 as soon as possible. You don't have a lot of ways to interact with the board in those times as well. Once you get to like your later Dawn stages, you do have like the Lin Lin and like the Luffys to be able to interact with the board more so than other cards, but in the early game, you don't have a lot going on. You're going to be really susceptible to decks that go wide. So things like Belo that can go very wide, but also go tall with the things that they go wide with is going to be one of your hardest matchups. You do have a huge target on your back when you're playing this because I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to beat this because this is the meta deck for a lot of people. And just be aware that this deck is a lot more technical than you would expect for a like 6K leader that like draws a lot. People are probably used to things like Whitebeard where you're like, you don't have to think too hard about your play. plays. But when you're stacking your deck and trying to figure out what you're doing in the later turns, there's a lot of thought behind this deck, so it's not as mindless as it might seem to begin with. So keep that in mind. I think a lot of people will have some of their frustrations aired out when they start playing this deck and understand exactly like what you should be thinking about a couple of turns ahead and trying to survive and get to that point where your board is really wide and you feel comfortable enough to kind of push for lethal. So overall, this leader is just amazing at what it does, very strong. It's here to stay for at least another couple of sets because as we see in OP12, it is a very prominent leader, so I think it's worth at least understanding what this leader does in the meantime, but you will see this a lot at big tournaments. It will likely top at a lot of big tournaments as well, so you probably should get used to it in the time being because this deck is... I don't think it's going to get banned anytime soon. The leader ability is, yes, inherently powerful and almost seems broken at times. If not, it is broken. But I don't think we're going to see any target bans quite yet. I think they'll give us some time to play with it in the West, at least in the meantime. So with that all being said, let's take the deck list into the sim and see how it does. All right, going against Marco here, I think I'm going to probably keep this hand because of the fact we do have a ramp unit. We do have an 8 cost that we could play down if we need to that interacts with their board, and we have a pudding, which they could get a big hand over the course of a game. So all these things are pretty good to see. I do think that Marco has a fair matchup into blue-purple Luffy because of the fact that they can answer our board pretty easily with their leader ability, plus things like Rayleigh. They have a lot of ways to just like cost reduce, or not cost reduce, but power reduce. I'm going to swing 6 into 6. I'm just going to give him the pudding upright because I don't feel like taking this hit this early. With the Duval blocker, it could be annoying, of course, to try to push for some attacks. They could just block this first one, but we'll see what they do on this first attack. I think what I'm going to just end up doing is swinging 7 first to see what they do, and then I'll play out the gear 2 and ramp up. We don't have a play afterwards, so on the next turn, we're going to be at 7 Dawn, which is a little bit awkward. We might be able to like get something off of life. I feel like this is probably a good reason to take at least this life here. Even though we can counter out, I feel like it's fine to just take this. I want to see what they have. So, okay, Ivankov into Masked Deuce. So they are running a build that is supposed to be answering this deck specifically. I think with Masked Deuce, it can like KO things within range, like the Bond Clays. If I am playing a Bond Clay down, I can KO that on attack. So pretty powerful with the Ivankov being able to just like continue to grow their hand. So yeah, they have a pretty good setup, at least right now. I think for me, I just hope to find like a ramp piece this turn. Nami is fine. Nami's not bad. We can play Nami down. Okay, so we get a Sanji off of it. I think what we can do here is we're going into 9, so we could actually set up the 9 cost. So we'll put that up first, and then we can draw into the 8 cost. So we have flexibility on what we can do this next turn. So I'm going to end up just swinging 7 here, leave 1 open for a bluff. I'm not going to be using a Gum Gum Giant, but I'll just leave 1 open just in case, you know, maybe desperation calls and I'll use something. But mostly it's just there to make them think that I could be using something instead. So, okay, so Newgate comes down. They're going to be able to put 1 under their leader, reduce the Nami down to 4,000 power, and then the Newgate should be able to KO the Nami after that. Here is a pretty good option for me to either play the Sanji out and cheat out the 9 cost Rush Luffy, which we have stacked next. Because we are at 9, we know what we have. Let's swing 6 first and see what they do. They might give us a 2k. I probably would if I were them. Cool. So what we're going to end up doing is cheating out this Luffy, use the Luffy ability to draw, and then swing 10 into 8. And this will be another couple of counter power for them. 2 and a 1, likely. 2 and a 1, good. They're down to 4 cards in hand, and we are looking pretty good at 7 in hand right now. We do have to keep in mind that they do run pudding, so we don't want to be too high in hand total, but I think we're in a good spot right now, at least in the meantime, because we can use our leader ability next turn and maybe get another rush unit off the top. We could run into another Sanji as well. That'd be really nice, but if we don't, we do have a Luffy to answer whatever threats they throw down. But going forward, so they're at 9 Dawn right now. They're probably not going to play out a Sanji. They probably want to use their leader ability, plus maybe do Rayleigh on 8, so then they could at least KO something on the field. That makes the most sense to me. We'll see what they do, though. If they do swing 6 here with their leader, I think I just have to counter out with the 2k. It's kind of unfortunate we have to counter out like that, but I don't, like I said, don't want to go down to, or I'd rather not go down to 1 life with 8 cards in hand and they pudding me. I'd rather be at 2 life with 6 cards in hand at least. So there's that. Yep, so Rayleigh, that's what I thought. We'll give him the Usohachi. And here, we can't really swing into the Newgate unless we do get something good. We can grab a Sanji. Yeah. What do I want? I think Linland's probably our best bet to be able to get rid of this Ivankov so they don't start building up a hand size in the meantime. I think that's probably the most important thing. So let's swing 6 into lead. We could also play out the Luffy and swing into the new gate. We could swing really big into the new gate with the Sanji and then Red Rock, but I don't think that's worth it. I think I just want to establish more bodies here. So swing 7, they did take that, so we'll go ahead and play out the Sanji into the Lin. We'll pitch out a Gum Gum Giant because we have plenty of them, and then we're going to put the Ivankov into life because I don't want this Ivankov to gain value by swinging, so I think that's pretty important to at least keep in mind there. And then here, they might have where they start doing their Sanji combos for themselves, but we do already have a pretty sizable board. It's just a matter of like how much can they answer the board that we have right now. So that is something I'm a little bit worried about because they do have pretty good removal for bigger bodies, especially with a new gate already established. There's an argument to like Red Rock that new gate instead, but I think I'd rather just establish more bodies. It's a little bit harder for them to answer all of these bodies. Worst case scenario, they answer like 2 of them. And what is Outlook 2 or Outlook 3? This is Microsoft sponsor. Okay, you may place this card in the trash and then minus 2,000 power to something. Wow, okay, cool. Well, I mean, that's a pretty good attack into the deck, I suppose. They're able to at least answer this Lin, and then they can also swing into this Sanji all at the same time. So yeah, they might actually answer both of these things. Otama. Okay, yeah, I'm definitely not going to protect the Sanji. I'm keeping the counter in my hand here. And I'm going to try to bait out a 2k swing or a 2k counter with my 6 from leader this next turn. And then we'll kind of play it from ear based off of that. 8 at lead. This smells like a blocker coming down here. Yeah, Duval blocker. To be expected, I suppose. It means that we can't really answer the rested units very easily. We kind of have to go with the 8-cost Luffy and hope that they don't have enough counter power in hand, which is kind of annoying. This stack is not really good for what we need right now. So let's go ahead and just place it on the bottom, get the 2k out of it. And I think my deck is trying to tell me to play the 8-cost Rush Luffy. So let's go ahead and just swing 6 into lead, see if we can get a 2k counter out of their hand. We do. That makes this a little bit easier for us to at least maybe possibly math out, maybe get one of these units out of the way, maybe both. So let's go ahead and put 2 on. I'm not going to be using Gum Gum Giant just quite yet. If we can get rid of these bodies, I think we don't need Gum Gum Giant. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Red Rock. We're going to bounce the Duval back to hand, swing 10 into the new gate, because that is the target we want to get rid of the most. They let it go. Okay, wow. 10 into 8. They might let this one go as well. Maybe they have counter, but looks like they just don't have enough counter, which is good for us. And then this turn, based off of the fact that they didn't counter out of that, means that they might have more bricks in their hand. So they could be running like that. They might be dropping the Sanji this turn, or they could be running another Rayleigh. A couple options for them, I suppose. I think the worst thing that we could see right now is like the 7-cost, like a 9-cost Sanji into a 7-cost Ace. Okay, this is not that bad because they don't have like another rush unit coming down, but they do answer the Luffy, of course. It is what it is. And they're going to go 6 in the lead. I think we just give him a Nami here because we don't need to keep that on the field. Well, we'll just grab a 2k, and then I think we're just going to bottom deck what we have there because it's not really... I don't feel like we need to play Sanji into a mediocre blocker. So instead, I think what we can do is, wow, so they gave us 2 1Ks. We'll just go ahead and swing for 7, and then this 8 will likely connect as well. And then we're going to leave the 2 open for the Gum Gum Giants just to protect the field, because I feel like we probably have a pretty good argument to go for lethal the next turn. They have to establish a blocker, otherwise they kind of just die. They have to also swing into these bodies and reduce them low enough that they can try to remove them, but I do have enough counter power to protect. The only downside is if they go for like a pudding play and then go really big at life. That could be a problem if I don't get any counter off of that. So there's a position where they do have, you know, a way out depending on if they do have a pudding and depending on our hand after that. So definitely not pudding. So at least we're a little bit more in the clear here, I think. The Ivankov into a Monet. Those are not blockers, so I think we're okay. Maybe. We'll see. The Monet is pretty good, though. Being able to put 2 Rested Dawn on something and then minus 1,000 to on the field. So yeah, that's pretty solid. Where are they going to put the 2,000 or the 2 extra? Okay, on to leader, meaning they could swing 8 into 6. I'm just going to let that go. I think we have to protect the Luffy at the very least, because if they do play a blocker, then the Luffy can at least bounce it back to hand. But they do have some things to think about here. They haven't used the Mask Deuce at all. I think the Mask Deuce is mostly just for like if you play a Bond Clay down. So they had the protection there just in case. But I'm sure they're wishing that this was back in their hand instead. So we'll see what they do. All right, they put 2 on the Sanji and swing 11 into 8. We're just going to give them 2 2Ks here. Make it less likely for them to putting us. Obviously, at this point, they're not going to, but 9 into 6. I can actually protect this with a Gum Gum Giant and then maybe protect the other swing that they have coming at us. I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to have like all these bodies on the field, especially if this one is not going to have like a Rayleigh effect the next turn. It'll be back to 9k power. We draw into counter. This is really good to see. 9 into... what do they have here? Doesn't matter. They kind of have to go for the Luffy because if they are using the 2 for like a Duval, then yeah, they're going to be in trouble. Let's go ahead and use the other Gum Gum Giant. We're going to go down to 6, but it's fine. We also have an Uso Hachi. If we're going to go on 8, we could just rest a blocker, but I don't think we need to. We can just play out, or we can use the Luffy effect. You had Duvals. Yeah, as to be expected. They were trying to block her up there, but it wasn't going to work because we just bounce it back with the A-cost Luffy. All right, Green-Purple Luffy is definitely an interesting matchup for us because I don't think it's necessarily super favored for us or for them. It's kind of, I would almost say it's like an even matchup depending on, I think, what I draw is more important than what they draw. If they do start seeing a lot of Sanji Puddings and we can't really answer them, which we don't have a lot of answers of stages on the field, then we could be in a little bit of trouble. But I think if we can just go really wide with our board, obviously, that's our goal here. But if we can do that, I think we're fine. We're going to go play this Zoro Juro down. And if they play a Zoro of their own, I think that's fine. Usually it's to be expected where the Zoro comes down, yeah, and then rests the Zoro Juro. They could swing 5 into this, and I could give them 2 1Ks, but I'm not going to. I think, okay, so they're just using their leader ability to guarantee that they can likely get this off the field. I don't think that's going to hurt them too much in the grand scheme of things. Swinging 8 into 4, you got it. I don't ramp up that turn, but I do ramp up this turn because I have a Bond Clay to play down. And the reason I didn't want to give them any counter if they did swing 5 into like 4, I had the Bond Clay to guarantee a ramp, and then I also have a Pudding because their hand is looking really big right now. So that's something to keep in mind. The downside for them, I guess, playing out their leader ability that early is that they can't like Sanji and Pudding this turn, which that's fine. They do have a Frankie, which will help them get back to where they were at or close to where they're at, so they can start building a wide board. But I will say if they did have a Sanji and Pudding this turn, it would be a lot harder for me to deal with. Kind of annoying overall, but it is what it is. 6 into 6, we'll take that one because I do need a card. I don't want to give them a 2K and show them that I don't have 1Ks to give. I don't want to give them the Pudding, of course. And then we're going to play this Katakuri down this turn because this thing is, I think, one of the best cards to play against Green-Purple Luffy. They don't have ways to really out it other than, I don't even know the name of the 2-cost event. It's the thing that like minuses by 5,000. Was it Gamma Knife, I think? That's one way to out this, but we're not going to give it to them. We're just going to keep this thing standing upright for the most part and only use it to block if we really are desperate or if it's like a last swing from them. So they play Luffy Taro into Sanji Pudding. Okay, cool. They actually are able to kind of recover well from using their leader ability that early. They use the stage on the Sanji and Pudding, so it means we can't interact with it with the Lin this next turn. Super annoying, of course. They go 4 into 6 just to get the ramp off, so they're back to where they should be. Which is good for them. And then they're going to go 9 into 6. I'm going to block and give them a 2K here. I could probably take this, but I don't want to go down to 1, especially when they run things like the 6-cost restand Rush Luffy. Kind of a nuisance here. All right, so what we're going to end up doing is we're going to grab a 2K off of the stack. I think what we can do is draw a 2K off of this, and then the Lin ability will probably put the Zoro into life, and we'll stack a 1K into life as well so that we can get some counter later on if they hit us. We're going to go 6 into 4, just get this off the field so they don't continue to ramp. We're going to copy the Luffy Taro. We're going to swing 8 and 8. And they just take both. Okay, their hand is either bricked or they're just holding on to a bunch of Gum Gum Giants and waiting to keep Dawn open. But we'll give them a life again. And then I think this next turn, we could end up just like putting them and then swing big into life. I think that might be best for us. Another Sanji and Pudding to draw a card. We want them to draw as many cards as possible so that they have a pretty decent hand size when we putting them. I don't want them to play cards down and then be at like 8. I want to get the maximum value here. So the Sanji and Pudding getting a card, the Going Merry getting a card, and then also protecting the Sanji and Pudding from a Lin is pretty annoying. I could block this, but I don't think I'm going to because if I block it, then they could use Gamma Knife. So we'll just give the Bond Clay here. And then if they swing Luffy Taro, I think we just take the Luffy Taro. If they swing Sanji and Pudding, to be honest, I might just take both hits and go down to 1 because I'm not too scared. There's also an argument that we could go and swing first and then after we swing, we could play the Pudding, but I think it's better to just play the Pudding like upright to begin with because they are at 9 cards in hand, and if they grab something off the Zorojuro, then they're gonna Gum Giant. So yeah, that's pretty nice. This is probably gonna be one of the best puddings ever. And they also play out a search event. This is really good for us. Okay, let's go ahead and grab a 2K. I don't need any of these big bodies here. I think we can close the game out with what we have in on our field. Grab the 2K. Katakuri is good to see here. Let's go ahead and pudding, and then we'll swing 9 into 6. This is going to be one where they probably will want to Gum Giant because the hits that are coming after that are probably going to be same size or bigger, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. We'll swing 8 into 6, see what they do here, and then we can swing pretty big with our lead. But yeah, that is... Oh, pain. They did have a Gum Giant off of that, but they would probably not be able to counter out of a big hit coming their way with their leader, or if they were able to, it wouldn't leave them with many cards in hand, and we could probably survive the crackback. Wow. Insane pudding value there. Green-Yellow Law is actually a pretty hard matchup for us, but we are going second, so we do have a guaranteed ramp with the Bond Clay. The reason that this deck is difficult for us, ooh, that's actually a really good draw, the God Thread. The reason it's difficult is because of the fact that they have a lot of 6K body stat lines, and they're usually swinging for 6 because they want to use their leader ability anyway. And on top of that, it's kind of hard to interact with their board with the new 2-cost Capone Beige blocker. And on top of that, there's more. There's Hody Jones as well we have to worry about, because Hody Jones is a green card, and that's something you should always consider if you're going against a green leader. It is the strongest green card out there, and it will be able to just like rest blockers, rest my Dawn if I leave something open for Gum Giant, so just something to keep in mind. But this matchup is actually pretty difficult for blue-purple to navigate efficiently. We have to see some pretty strong pieces. The fact that they're running Caramel should tell you that the sim right now, we're not on the dev version. There is not an update, but I believe that Caramel is actually going to be replaced with a new Kid and Killer from the starter deck, the Bonnie starter deck, so something to keep in mind there. So they play out the Capone Beige, put a Law into life, use the Bonnie ability. They're at 4 on the field. Okay, so they got a Cavendish with the Bonnie. They're going to play out the Cavendish with the Beige, put it into life. They're probably just bringing this back is what I'm assuming. Bringing the 2K back into hand. They had plays I suppose they could make, but this one's the better one to be able to get the Cavendish out on the field. Although, to be fair, they probably should have done the Bonnie search first, but who knows? Maybe the Bonnie came off of life. It's hard to tell. There's like so much sequencing with this deck that it is a little bit difficult at times. Here, I think we just play out the God Thread to kill the Cavendish. And then, unfortunately, what that means is that we're going to probably have to swing into the Bonnie. I'm going to leave the Bond Clay standing upright because knowing them, they might play the 7-cost Law. And if that's the case, then that's really good value for us to be able to swing 9 into their leader. And if we swing the Bond Clay that turn, like if we use the Bond Clay to swing 6 into lead and then kill the Cavendish, then they could swing Caramel into it for free. So we don't want that. Yep, so as I figured, 7-cost Law here. They put a Cavendish into life. I swear, they always have like multiple copies of it. It's like, it's the same thing with Sanji and Pudding with like green, purple Luffy. So we'll go ahead and counter out of that 6. There's a really good stack here. Wow. Okay, so we have a Sanji. We will draw into a 1K. No, I think we draw into the Gum Giant just in case, and then we can stack the 1K into life so that we have counter coming out. We'll swing 6 into lead. Actually, we don't even need to use the Gum Giant. Let's go ahead and swing 7 into lead. That's more efficient for me, at least. Get 2 cards out of hand. They know that a 9 is coming their way, or they should expect a 9 coming their way. So they probably want to counter out of this one, if anything. 2 and a 1. Good to see. Another Cavendish, of course. 9 into 5. And then what we're going to do is play Sanji, cheat out the Lin, and I think we get rid of the blocker Katakuri because I think I saw another one in the stack. So better to keep something in our hand that we don't have available. I don't want to give him any counter for the Bond Clay. It doesn't... I mean, you could... but just let it go. It's fine. Just let it go. Keep the counter for if they swing at life, because they're definitely going to be hitting us with the 7-cost and probably a pretty big leader swing as well. Maybe get us down to 1 so that they can safely play Hody Jones and try to go for game at that point. They use the Capone Beige to put another Cavendish into... oh, I guess the Cavendish that they had at the bottom that we stacked. Does that make sense? I think that might have been... I don't know if that's the right play there. I think that the Law... You know what? I see what they're doing. This is where the complications can occur, is that they're trying to get the Cavendish on the top of life, so they use the Capone to put it there, but they can't really heal efficiently with the Law, because then that means they're playing over the Cavendish. I get it. I understand. But this puts them in a really compromising position because of the fact that We could just swing really big at them, and they might not like that. So we're going to counter out with a 2K off the 7 swing. We'll take the 9. 2 left might be the beige blocker I was talking about. That's probably their best play here. Play over the caramel, play a beige, yeah. Okay, so how do we get past this? We could Sanji. We could set up a Sanji into the like Katakuri or 9-cost Luffy. That's not bad. But I feel like we're probably going to be susceptible to a Hody Jones. They're probably going to Hody pretty soon. I feel like they might be feeling desperate here. So I think we might just want to pressure them instead. Let's swing 6 and a 5, get a 2K out of hand, and get them to 4 cards in hand here. And then if that's the case, what we can actually do, instead of playing this Sanji into the Luffy, the 9-cost Luffy, we could just play this 8-cost Luffy out instead. And then swing into leader, pitching out the Sanji we got, bouncing the beige back to hand, and then swing 9. And if they take this, we could swing another 9, and then 11. If they don't take this, we can just swing 9, 11, and guarantee it at that point. Yeah, they didn't have enough. Wow. Okay, so this Luffy showing off why it can be pretty useful in some scenarios. I do like being able to bounce blockers back to go for lethal. Blue Yellow Nami is, I think, right now they don't have like all of the tools they need to be able to beat Blue Purple Luffy. If this deck is running the starter deck 22 Odin, then I think they have a better shot. It is legal in the sim, so they might be running it. So this is not necessarily a version, if they do have it, that we'd be seeing. But overall, I feel like this matchup's favored into Blue Purple. We're going to play out the Zorojuro, and knowing Nami, they probably have ways to interact with this. They have plenty of ways to interact with this, rather, but it's better than not playing anything at all. They have to at least answer this. We don't have any other option, really. If they bounce this back, or if they kill it, they bounce it back. Okay, no Jiko. Being able to bounce a 5-cost, it's fine. We'll give them a 2K here. We're not going to play the Zorojuro again. I think it's better just to go ahead and play out this Nami and see what we get off the stack. The stack is pretty solid, so let's go ahead and put the 9-cost and the 8-cost back. We'll draw into the 8-cost, but I think what's more important here is we need to be able to play out the Gear 2 this next turn so we can use our leader ability the following turn. Because we're not going to be able to use our leader ability if we don't ramp up this next turn. We'd have to wait an additional turn after that. And at that point, what's the point? I feel like this is probably our one of our favorable matchups at least, and if we're a little bit behind, then I don't want it to make it more difficult than it usually is. So 9 to 6, we'll take that. Gosh, we have too many of the 8-costs, but that's fine. We have too many bricks in hand, I suppose, is the problem. Swing 7 into lead, so if they want to use their leader ability, they have to give us 2 cards. And to be honest, I think I'm going to leave this Nami standing upright. I don't think it's something I want to swing with. Oh, they get the Satori trigger, but they are running the 7-cost Odin, so this is the version that I think is better into blue-purple because of the Odin being able to restand and bounce a card back to hand, get more counter in hand, pretty powerful there. And they have really good options as well. They have a Nojiko. If they do have another 7-cost Odin, they have the Nojiko they can bounce back to hand. They have the Satori they can bounce back to hand, a 2K counter, so plenty of good options there. But let's see what they do at least. Right now, the Kiku Nojo is very good because I don't want to really heal them, but if I need to, I will. It's not like a huge issue for me. If this thing gives them an extra life, I'd rather the swing be off the board. Unfortunately, I'm not going to give him a Nami here. I just have to take the hit. It is what it is. And the Odin is not something we can interact with because of the fact that it has protection. If you try to remove it once per turn, they can pitch 2 cards from hand. So things like Red Rock are not going to be good against it, unfortunately. But we do have a Lin and Life that we can stack up. Very good here to get rid of the dead cards in hand for the Lin ability. We'll swing 6 into the Kiku Nojo. Just see if we can get a card out of hand. Maybe we're lucky and they decide to let it go, but they don't. So we'll go ahead and just put it in life anyway. We'll put it at the bottom. And then past the turn from here, we have 2 life, a blocker, and I think we're in a pretty good spot. I don't know exactly what they could be doing. They might play an 8-cost Kid this turn. That could be a problem, but if they use the 8-cost Kid, then they're not using the Odin ability. So we'll see what they do. There's plenty of options for them. 5 cards in hand, though. We are starting to get to a point where we're grinding them a little bit more. We've obviously have hit our leader ability, so we can start drawing cards every turn. 1 open for any kind of shenanigans they might have. But if they decide to swing big, then we'll just use a Gear 2 to protect it, because I don't really want to use a Gum Gum Giant quite yet. And they use a Pudding. Okay, well, that's actually not a bad play there, but they did give us a lot of counter, so that's fine. We'll go ahead and I guess use the Gum Gum Giant just because we do have a Katakuri ready to go. And we know that the next life is a God Thread that we stacked, so that if they decide to hit us at least one more time, we will ramp back up. There's always a chance here. Okay, so they're bouncing the Nami back to hand. There's always a chance. We're going to go ahead and take this hit. that they don't swing the Odin, so we're going to try to force them to swing the Odin here. If it means going down to 0 life, it means going down to 0 life, but I think we just go ahead and counter out with the 2 and the 1, just to be safe, because we have plenty of counter power outside of that. Wow, they're using the Teach ability here. Okay, so this Teach is actually getting some good value for them, being able to get that extra swing in, an extra 2k out of my hand. Quite the nuisance. This is where things are a little bit awkward. We could grab this Sanji, but I don't like this stack, really. I mean, this stack is fine. Stack is fine, I suppose. Let's swing 6 into 5, see what they do. Actually, let's swing 7 into 5. I think that might be better here. We might be able to actually answer this Odin. I think that's where we're going to go. We're going to go 10 into 8. And then if they let this go, then we can play out the Katakuri. If they don't let this go, then we have other options as well. But they let it go. Good to see. We'll go ahead and play out... Well, let's swing the Sanji first, see what they do. And then we could play out the Katakuri. We don't need any Dawn open quite yet. We'll restand our Lin and then pass the turn. And then maybe off of our stack, we can get something better to play off of with the Sanji. But our best target as of right now is the 5-cost Nami blocker. So then if we go get pushed down to 0 this next turn with like an 8-cost kid, if they like rip our life, we have a blocker ready to go, and then we have another blocker in the stack at least. Let's go ahead and just block this one for free. And then let's see what they do. It is a kid. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder if they were wanting to see if I just take the life, and then maybe they have a different option they could play instead of the kid. Kid's pretty good, though. Use the Teach ability to swing 7 with the Pudding. This Teach is putting in some mileage. It's actually really good. Let's use the action here. Oh, we do have a good target with the 8 cost, but I think what we're going to end up doing is just go ahead and put the gear 2 at the top. We'll stack a Nami blocker, swing 6 into 4. I think we swing 9 into 9. And then another 9 into 9. I want to grind cards out of their hand is the thing. So I think that's the most important thing that we're trying to do here. I could stack Dawn onto like Lin. I could stack Dawn onto the Katakuri and probably be okay if they decide to swing really big, because I have a Gum Gum Giant and a Gear 2. But I think it might be just better to go ahead and play out this and then see what we can get off, or like at least put to the bottom. Maybe put like a Gear 2 and like a Luffy to the bottom. And then we have plenty of counter in hand. We could use the Gum Gum Giant to pitch a Gear 2, and then we have counter outside of that. And it's going to be really difficult for them to break through here. They could use like a Nojiko to bounce the Nami back to hand. Okay, a Zeus is fine. Zeus is fine for them, not for me. They do get rid of the Nami, and then they have to just like kind of awkwardly divide the Dawn between the kid and the Nami, because they're trying to like divide it so they can get past this Katakuri blocker. Now, if the Katakuri wasn't on the field, they actually might have it with a Teach ability plus an all-in kid. But because the Katakuri is on the field, it at least guarantees us like 1 more life. And we can at least stabilize from there if that's the case. 10 into 6. If we block here, it just gets bigger. So I think what we're going to end up doing is go ahead and use the Gum Gum Giant. We're going to go ahead and Gum Gum Giant, pitch the Gear 2, and then pitch a 1k. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. -2. And then a Zorojuro. Good to see. And then if they swing really big with the Nami, I think we just block it with the Katakuri here. And if they use the Teach ability to also swing, then that's something that they might be at 4 cards in hand. So something to keep in mind. Let's see how they do this, though. They might be able to like try to trick us, because if they go all in with the Nami, we're just going to easily block. So, okay, 8 with the Nami here. They're leaving 4 open, which could mean that they're going 8-9. They could put like the 4 on their Teach, use Teach ability, put the rested Dawn on the Teach, and swing 9. So let's go ahead and just counter out of this one. 2 and a 1. And then if they swing 9 with the Teach, I think we just block. And then we should be able to close out the game based off of the 9k bodies that we have on the field. So yeah, pretty close. But I think we're able to at least pull this one out. We'll see what they have, though. I mean, it's not over quite yet, but mathematically it should be. We'll grab a 2k, I guess. It doesn't really matter. We'll put all the rest at the bottom. 9. They'll have to use leader ability plus pitch 2 more cards, and then at that point they'll have 1 in hand. Yep, 1 in hand, and then it's just math at this point. We'll swing 9. Yeah, very grindy matchup as you can see, and it is very dangerous. You do have to respect it, especially with the Odin coming out in starter deck 22. It becomes a lot closer of a matchup overall. All right, Belo Betty is like pretty much an auto loss matchup for us, but let's go ahead and play it out and see how we can do. The mulligan hand is because I didn't have a play on 3. At least we have a play here. We can ramp up pretty early. I think it's better to just play out the Zorjuro, and I'm not going to swing into the Belo Betty because I don't want to give them triggers. I don't want to give them cards. We want them to starve themselves. Go ahead and give them a... I guess we'll give him the Nami. I didn't want to give him the Nami because I do like the fact that we can draw deeper into the deck, but it is what it is. Let's swing 4 into 5. Perfect here because we're able to at least get the ramp. We can ramp again with the gear 2, so we're actually going to be able to get our leader ability off this next turn, which is huge to be able to get it this early. On turn 4, oftentimes you're getting it like turn 5, but to get your leader ability on turn 4 is what we need in order to try to make this matchup a little bit more equal. Regardless, though, it's going to be very difficult no matter what we do. The fact that they didn't have a Ivankov into Karasu is very good for us because we're not going to be a 5k leader. So I wouldn't say they're low rolling, but you know, they're not seeing what they need exactly. So, okay, cool. We actually have a Sanji into a Katakuri blocker, which I think is going to be really good for us. Yet again, I'm not going to be swinging anything. I'm just going to play out these bodies and then have them swing into me. Here, because I have 3 cards in hand and they're all 1-cost events, I might just take as much life as they try to throw at me. Playing out the Kuma 2k counter, they might use their leader ability here. Oh, Inazuma as well. Okay, 6 into lead. I think I could just block this one, right? Yeah, block and that's fine. Okay, so here, I guess we can establish another big body. This next turn is going to really hurt for us because I think what they're trying to do is get this really wide board and then just go all in all at once. So let's go ahead and just draw off of that, use the ability, and then pass. We have a couple of counter in hand. We have a blocker. We have Gum Gum Giant if we need it. So this is where they're probably going to do a lot of damage, and we might be able to at least equalize depending on how big they swing. We're not seeing any Kuzan, or say Kuzan, any of the Karasu. If we saw Karasu, I feel like this matchup would be a little bit difficult. Not a little bit, very difficult. It'd be a lot different. But here, okay, so they use their leader ability. They're making the Inazumas plus 3,000 and the Kuma plus 3,000. So this is why this deck is so good, especially if you can get a Karasu in the field, because then I'm a base 5k leader. Too powerful. Here, I think what we can end up doing... I could gear 2, but I could also just take this because they have a lot more swings coming our way. So I want to see what they do first. We'll take this one as well. And another 8. I think we could just give them a gear 2. We can also block with the Katakuri, give them a 1k. They didn't put anything on the Koala or Karasu, so that's good to see. Here, a 10k into the leader. I think we can actually just go ahead and use the Gum Gum Giant, pitching out a Zorojuro. Great. Love to see this. And then now we can actually answer the board a little bit better. Oh, a lot better. We have a Sanji into a 9-cost or an 8-cost Luffy. So let's go ahead and get that. We have a lot of counter in hand. We are looking pretty good right now, actually. We might be able to equalize here. So let's go ahead and play out the Sanji, cheat out the Luffy. We're going to bounce back. We're going to pitch a gear 2 to bounce back this Karasu blocker and then swing 9 into 5. We'll swing 8 into 4, and then I actually think we can start pressuring them a little bit. If they get bodies off of these triggers, I think it's unlucky, but it's not the worst thing in the world. We should be able to survive. A 9, they're thinking about it. Oh, they got a Kuma trigger. Okay, that's not the worst thing in the world. It could be worse. It could be an actual body that swings flat. Did they get another one? Oh my god. Please, no. Okay, so it's a Lindbergh, a lot worse. Unlucky here, but I guess... you know, Belo Betty with triggers, it is what it is. Ivankov into a Belo Betty Searcher. That is definitely great for us to see. If they got a Ivankov 4-cost that brings out something, that's really unfortunate for us, but I think we're in a pretty good spot here. They're running out of cards, they're running out of resources. The thing that we really have to worry about is if any blockers are in life, then that could be a problem. They're pitching out a Karasu, I'm assuming to give... yeah, leader ability to all of these characters on the field that can swing. They're probably going to try to push for somewhat of a lethal here. If they don't push through, then I think we just win. 6 into 6, we'll give them a 1k. I think what they're going to do is like Another 6 with this one, yeah. With the koala, I could give him a 2K. I could also just block. I think free blocking is fine. Yeah, I think blocking is probably the better option here, because then we take one of these from the Lindbergh or the leader swing. Yeah, we'll go ahead and take that one. Unfortunate that the red rock was there. Maybe we should have taken one of the other hits, but it is what it is. And then we'll go ahead and counter out with a Gum Gum Giant, of course. You can pitch out the red rock. Then pass the turn. I think we have guaranteed lethal unless they have blockers, but yeah, we got pretty lucky they didn't see any Karasu 4-cost Karasus, because that really makes this matchup just a living hell. I keep calling Lucci Kuzan because this deck is basically just Kuzan the deck, but we're going to take second against Lucci, and I think that this hand is not awful. We have ramp, and we also have the 8-cost Luffy. Now, this swing is really interesting because a lot of Luccis just won't swing to begin with. They'll just like do their leader swing for 5 and then just get the mill off, and then they won't give us any cards. But we'll take any hits. I think that's fine, especially an 8. We'll definitely just take that. In this matchup, I definitely think that Linlin is not nearly as good, unless, of course, you have like a 4-cost Kuzan you're trying to get rid of. Here, we're going to pitch out the Zorojuro because that's never getting any value. They use Suru Brook to get rid of the Bond Clay. That's fine. Bond Clay probably wasn't going to swing much anyway. We'll go ahead and ramp up, and then I think we just swing big. I think we just swing 10 into lead. We could play a pudding, but I think I'd rather play a pudding if they have more cards in hand. This next turn, we're going to be able to use our leader ability, and I think our priority targets for this matchup, well, it was going to be a 9-cost rush Luffy, but I think we'll give him a pudding here. I think we just have to keep the 2Ks in hand. But now with that in mind, I think we're going to have to actually just play out this 8-cost Luffy and bounce the Kuzan back to hand. This is why this Luffy's so good. So we'll swing 7 into lead, and then we'll play out the Luffy. Pitch, they give us a 2 and a 1. Good to see there. And then we'll swing 8, I guess 9 into lead, actually. They'll probably block it. Kuzan goes back to hand. And then here they are at 9 Dawn, so they can't play out 10-cost Kuzan. We have another turn to at least find a red rock, if that's the case. That's a really important card in this matchup. Outside of the 8-cost Luffy, 9-cost Rush Luffy is really good. Looks like they have an answer to this one, though, being able to play out the Shirahoshi that minuses 4 on play, playing on the one-legged soldier, and then they'll swing probably 7 with the Brook. It's fine. We'll give them a 2K here. And then this turn, oh, perfect. Sanji into a 10-cost Rush Luffy, I think is better than the 9-cost Linlin for this specific matchup, of course. So let's go ahead and just stack it this way. We'll go ahead and I think I'll swing 7 into the Brook because that's a little bit more awkward. It means 2K, so they're probably going to just like block this one. And then what we can end up doing is playing the Sanji, use the leader ability to bring out the Luffy, draw a card, and then swing 10 into 4. Brook is a priority target to try to get off the field. So that's why I swung into it with a big unit. But outside of that, I think the rest of the things we can probably just ignore. They do have a 10-cost Kuzan. I hate to see it, but it is what it is. Yeah. Okay, so we don't have any good targets. We'll go ahead and grab the Sanji, but we're going to put everything else to the bottom. And then this turn, I think what we end up doing, or we should end up doing, is rather just swing 6, 9, 10, 10. They give us 2 1Ks. Okay, I feel like the rest of these are going to connect. So we actually just push them to 0 and make it where even though they have a Kuzan in the field, it doesn't really matter. So let's go ahead and swing 10, and they'll likely take this. If they have a Kuzan on the field, if they play another one, it's pretty much game over because at that point, they have no blockers, so we can just go really big. They can't answer everything, I don't think. They might be able to answer like 2 things. Looks like a Laboon to get rid of make the Luffy down to 0. Rebecca to grab, or the Brook, and then swinging 12 into 9. I'll just go ahead and use the Gum Gum Giant. It's fine. Oh, perfect. We have an 8-cost Luffy to be able to play this out and then bounce the Rebecca down to hand. I mean, we could rest it with the Usohachi, but this is more fun. So let's go ahead and just bounce this Rebecca back, swing 9, 9, 10, and then maybe 7 with the lead. So yeah, that's how you have to do it. You just have to rush them down and then return priority targets to hand or just get rid of them if you can. Another green-purple Luffy matchup. I think we're going to try to take second on this one. Maybe we can get to our 8 Dawn faster. Mulligan that hand because we need to find ramp units instead. So this is actually really good for us. Being able to get 2 Bond Clays here means that we will, at least if we want to, be guaranteed to hit the 8 Dawn turn pretty quick. So at least going first, it's a little bit harder. You need to find like the perfect cards. like Zorojuro or multiple ramp pieces back to back to back. But going second, you only really need 2 ramp pieces to be able to hit 8 and get your leader ability off pretty quickly. So let's go ahead and I think we swing 6 here. Test the waters, see what they do, and then play out the Bond Clay. The reason why is because they might have something that rests the Bond Clay, and we don't want them to get free value off of that by swinging a Nami into a Bond Clay. That's definitely not what we want to see, but that's why we swing 6 and just see what they do. They're likely going to take it anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The difference between 7 and 6 doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of this. They don't have a Sanji and Pudding on curve, but they will have one next turn, so that's an unfortunate thing for us that we have to keep in mind. Swinging 8 into lead, we'll take it. We're down to 1 life here. We are in the danger zone, but I think we'll be fine. Here, what we'll do is we can go and play out Bond Clay, ramp up. I guess we just swing like 6 in the lead. See what they do. They take it. Okay. We need to find a Pudding. Their hand is like fat. Okay, so this is where they play Luffy Taro and a Sanji Pudding. Perfect for them. That's an amazing curve. Really good 2 units to throw down. And I can't interact with the Luffy Taro naturally. And with the Going Merry, I won't be able to interact with the Pudding here. The Sanji and Pudding. Kind of unfortunate, but oh well. At least next turn we'll have our leader ability here. And we can maybe cheat something out with the 9-cost Sanji. We'll grab a Usohachi. The 9-cost Luffy is actually really good here too. I think what we do is we just place it where we stack it and do that. We'll swing 6 into lead. This one they'll likely counter. We'll swing 8 into lead. They'll likely block that one. Another 8 into lead here. They might take it. And then we'll go 9-cost Sanji into the Luffy. And we'll swing 10 into lead. And I imagine they'll take this one as well. Yeah, they go down to 0. But, man, they have quite a lot of cards. They're at 10 right now. If we can find a Pudding within the next couple of turns, maybe ideally next turn will be good. Okay, so they go 8 into lead off the bat. That's a really good swing to start off with. Makes it awkward for me. 2 into 1, I could protect it, but I'm not going to. And another 2 into 1, I'm not going to protect this. The thing I'm thinking about is they might have a 6-cost rush restand Luffy, and that's going to be a real nuisance, of course. I will take that 8 because if they go big with the leader, I should be able to at least counter out of it with the Gum Gum Giant and all the 2Ks we have in hand. If they play a 6-cost rush restand Luffy, I think I'll be fine as well. But I don't think they're going to go and push that right now. I think what they might do is they're obviously running choppers, so there's a world where they could play another chopper out. Play Sanji and Pudding. Okay, that's fine. They use their leader ability. They gain a lot of Dawn back. Pretty good overall. They might swing pretty big here. That's really annoying if that's the case. We'll see what they do, though. What do they have? 6 Dawn? So, I mean, obviously they're not going to tap out here. What they might end up doing is, like, swing on Chopper. And then 8 into lead. Okay, we'll just give them a 2 and a 1. We'll hold on to the Gum Gum Giant. I want to be able to use my leader ability this next turn. I think that's pretty important. They're leaving 2 open for what is assumably a Gum Gum Giant of their own. Here, I could... There's a lot of options, actually. But I think the best option here is to go and play out or grab a Gear 2. Maybe put a Luffy at the top. And then put the God Thread into life. I think that's best. Oh, it's risky. We'll swing 6 into 6. They'll give us a counter. 9 into 6. They'll probably Gum Gum Giant. And then 10 into 6. We might not actually swing the 10 if they counter out of this one. Because if the Chopper's on the field, then they can't use their leader ability. They're going to definitely block it. So, I mean... Let's just not. That might be a misplay, but I feel like for the sake of it, let's not. Let's just go ahead and put the Sanji and Pudding into life. 1 less swing coming our way. We're at least like a little bit more healthy here. And then we actually can safely use the Gum Gum Giant and then use our leader ability the next turn as well because of the God Thread in life. It just means that we do have to take 1, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Here, they'll probably start off with another 8 swing. Very good. We'll use the Gear 2 to go +3. We're tapped out, so they probably feel pretty safe to like start swinging big here. Another 8. I mean, I guess we'll take a risk. We'll take it, and then we'll ramp up 1 so we can at least get the Gum Gum Giant some use there. And of course, they could probably like swing really big with the leader, but we do have ways out of it. They also might have the... I've been talking about it, the 6-cost Luffy. Yep, there it is. Okay. Smart. They played over the chopper so that they can use their leader ability. That's something to keep in mind. But, oh well. They played the Nami so that they could actually have a full board and then play the Luffy so they could play over it and then use the leader ability. Pretty good. That's actually a pretty smart play. So I guess it didn't matter. I should have just swung the Luffy anyway, I suppose. Although I guess they just would have been blocked. It would have been blocked for free. So that forced them to at least use an extra Dawn. So we, in a way, we like taxed them by one, I suppose. Not that it really matters. We're in a pretty rough spot here. Do they want to use their Luffy ability to restand and then swing twice? I think we would be able to have it, I think. I mean, I guess it depends on what we draw into, of course, but I'm kind of confident we should be okay. 8 into 6. Okay, they are not using it. I think they're afraid. They're afraid of what could come. So let's go ahead and just Gum Gum Giant. Red Rock. We actually would have lost. If they went 8-8, we would have lost there. Oh, and they have a chopper. Oh my god. Look at that. Okay, actually, you know what? This is pretty solid. We're going to draw, and it doesn't matter. We're going to draw into the pudding. We can play the pudding, reset their hand, and then Uso Hachi, the chopper, and then rest it and swing a bunch of 9s or 10s or whatever. And yeah, their hand was absolutely just dead after that. What a really good pudding. Shanks is a matchup I feel pretty confident in. They do have some pretty nice top end, of course, and have ways to answer our board, but I just feel like they have to draw into it consistently, and that sometimes is a difficult point for Shanks to be able to do. Divine Departure, pretty good to answer some of our stuff, but not everything here. Swing 6 into 5, which is really good about this leader, is that you can just swing freely into Shanks. Feels good. The Gear 2 is definitely our only play there, but a good play regardless. Playing the Chopper, we're going to go ahead and God Thread it, because Chopper is actually really annoying to deal with in this matchup because of the fact that they just can leader ability plus block with the Chopper pretty easily. So at least getting that out of the way, ramping up with the God Thread, doing a little bit of everything at once is pretty nice. 7 into 6, we'll go ahead and counter out with a 2K, stay healthy if we can. A Lucky Roo, and actually this is a really good time to play out the Katakuri. What a really good draw here. This Katakuri is good, although they do have the Divine Departure, it means that they're going to actually just play the Divine Departure instead. And they won't be establishing any bodies, which I think is fine for me. I should fully expect the Divine Departure to come through. But we'll see. Yep, Divine Departure, they have 2 left. They might want to split it between Lucky Roo and Leader, but yeah, we'll just take the 7. We don't have a 2K to give them. Really good off the top there. We will go ahead and get the Zorojuro. We'll stack a Nami, stack a Zorojuro in life, just have an extra 1K. And then what we can end up doing is swinging 7 to lead, see if they block with the Lucky Roo. They use leader ability plus a 2K. They're just trying to stay healthy as well. We'll go ahead and play the Sanji into the Lin, pitch out, and then get rid of the Lucky Roo. I just don't want a blocker on the field. If they, this turn, they do have a 10 cost. I was going to say, if they have a 10 cost, we have an option of swinging really big into it, although I don't think that is advisable. We can go ahead and grab a Sanji and put everything else to the bottom. Yeah, one of those where it's like kind of annoying that we didn't have a good stack there. If we have a good stack there, I think we actually pull ahead. If we have a Red Rock, we pull ahead, but not the case, unfortunately. I think they took the 6 because they're expecting me to try to like maybe bait their leader ability, but they use their leader ability on the Sanji, and I think we're just going to go and put 3 on it and swing 10 into lead. And then here, we're just going to go ahead and play out the Nami as a blocker and see what we can set up for following turns. I don't like any of this, to be quite honest, so let's go ahead and put the 8 cost and the Bond Clay to the bottom. And we do have a Gum Gum Giant at least. And then maybe the next turn, we will be able to establish 2 bodies again with a Sanji. Our stacks for the last 2 turns have been rather, or I guess the stack for the previous turn was rather bad. And the Nami didn't really find us much either. So kind of a little bit of a low roll right now, but we're still in it. We'll see how they navigate this turn. If they have another 10 drop, we're in some trouble, but it looks like they don't. We're going Building Snake to -4 to the Lin. Play out the Newgate to pop the Lin. What do they do here? 6 lead? I think I just give them a 1K. Zorojuro is what we don't need. And they might go Shanks into the Sanji. And if they go Shanks into the Sanji, I think we just block with the Nami. We don't give them anything quite yet. Shanks in the lead. All right, well, we can block that one. That's fine. We don't need to go down to 1. We're fine without that. Okay, so this is not an awful stack. We can grab a 2K here. We can also grab the Sanji later on. We can draw into the 2K and then stack a Pudding into life as well. We'll go 6 into lead. We'll go 8 into lead. Do they take this one? Do they have... Okay, leader ability plus a 0 cost event. Then we'll play out a Sanji into a Lin. We'll just pitch out a Bond Clay, heal 1, and then pass the turn. I think it's more important to establish as many bodies into this matchup as possible, even if they have a 10 cost on the field. Answering the 10 cost is nice, but we don't see any red rocks quite yet, so there's not much we can do about that. So we're just going to have to ignore the 10 cost and just like swing at life instead. The fact that our bodies are swinging for 8, even with the 10 cost on the field, is really annoying for Shanks. Because like leader ability means that they have to give us 2 cards at that point. We're not going to contest this one. We're just going to give that to them and hope, just hope that they don't have a KO Shanks or what else could be a problem here? A Rayleigh could be a problem as well, because then they can guarantee get rid of something with the new gate and then reduce the power of something else for the next swing. The saving grace here is that we have plenty of cards in hand and they're starting to run out of cards themselves. So Divine Departure, not bad, into a Tony Chopper, and they swing 8 into 6. They could just give them a gear 2 just to stay healthy. Like that's the really only time we're going to be able to use that anyway. We'll grab an Usohachi, and then I think we'll go ahead and establish a Sanji into a Katakuri. Why not? I think that's pretty good for us. 6 into lead. They use their, I guess, a 2K. They don't even use leader ability Chopper. That's fine. 1 card in hand for them. They just block. Then we'll go Sanji into Katakuri. And then if they decide to swing this Shanks into the Sanji like they did last turn, we can protect it. I didn't want to like give them a lot of information or any counter out of hand. So that's why I just like gave up the Sanji so quickly. But if they decide to swing Shanks here into it, we'll go ahead and counter out. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to block with my Katakuri blocker. The things that are standing upright are going to remain upright unless I absolutely have to use them, which I don't think is necessary. With 2 cards in hand, they don't have too many options. At least it's not another 10 cost, but they do have 8 Dawn open, so it could be a Rayleigh. Rayleigh would be pretty annoying. 12 into 8. Okay, easily. We can just counter out of this one. Gum Giant plus another 1K here. And then, what else could they do? I mean, if they decide to swing big with the new gate, we'll give it to them, I suppose. 10 into 8. We can 2 into 1. We're going to protect these units the best that we can. I think that's probably the most important thing here. What do they have? They have 5 Dawn remaining. What could that be? Oh, okay. That was a snap block. I thought they were going to go into the Sanji. Oops. That was a mistake. We could have just taken that and had a full board. Yeah, I thought they were going to go straight into the Sanji. I didn't expect them to go for face. Because I was going to keep the Sanji alive at that point, because it's a better swing than the Katakuri at least. So, yeah, it is what it is. Let's go ahead and swing 9 into lead here. I think we have lethal. We have a potential lethal at least. Then we'll go ahead and swing. Oh, I should have put the Dawn underneath it. Misplays all around. We'll swing 8. It could have been a 9. That's my fault. I'm playing too quick. I'm actually pretty comfy. I'm like really in a comfy spot here. They give us all the cards in hand. Yeah, if we just swung 9, we had the game there. But play a little bit slower if you're playing this deck. Don't play like me for this specific match. You know, guarantee your lethals at least if that's the case. But I think we should have it regardless. If they play down a blocker this turn, we have an Usohachi. If they try to go for game this turn, we have enough to be able to survive. So despite our 2 misplays in a row, I think we should still be able to pull it out here. 8 into 6. We can counter out of this, but I think if they divide their Dawn among what they have on the field, we are going to be okay anyway. So no reason to do anything here. 9, yeah, okay. So that means they have to swing 8 with the new gate. They should have done 8, 8, 9, 12, but we'll go ahead and counter out of this one with the gear 2. And then if they want to go for the board, go for the board. They have 1 card in hand and we just win. So yeah, it's a game of attrition against Shanks sometimes. Sometimes you just kind of have to ignore the 10 drop if you don't have an answer to it. But if you can find a red rock, that's good. And then play slow. Play slow. Yeah, it probably doesn't come at any shock to anyone out there, but yeah, this leader is pretty powerful, huh? So who knew that cheating out 2 9-cost bodies efficiently and very consistently is broken. Yeah, so I think this leader, as you can see over the course of the games we had, does have some things that it does run into problems with. If you do go against Belo Betty, we got lucky in our Belo Betty game that they kind of low rolled a little bit, but I think that matchup is going to be almost an auto loss in most cases. You can tech things in if you want to try to help that matchup, but to be honest, when you're teching things in to help your worst matchups, it doesn't help by a lot of percentage, so you might as well not really do too much in that regard. At least that's my opinion. I could be wrong there, but the other matchups that we did have some difficulty with is going to be like Purple Luffy, because Purple Luffy can ramp up pretty fast, and if they can get an 8-cost Katakuri out pretty early, and then maybe like a Rush Luffy, you are going to be asking for some help for sure, because those cards are definitely really strong against this specific leader. So Purple Luffy can be a difficult matchup, and then Green Purple Luffy, depending on how they draw, could be difficult, but I think it's mostly a skill matchup and definitely draw dependent for Blue Purple. So yeah, as you can see over the course of all the games, I think this is a pretty decent showing, but let me know what you guys think about the deck list overall. What have you added in? What have you changed? There's plenty of different things you could put into this deck list. This is like a kind of shell for the most part though, but I'll change it over the course of playing it as well. So anyways, thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.